Every single Lego brick starts as a humble grain of plastic. But the journey it takes to become a masterpiece of precision and play is nothing short of amazing. Did you know that Lego has been around since 1932? But the iconic interlocking brick we know today wasn't invented until 1958? And here's the wild part. Every single Lego brick made since then still fits perfectly with one made today. How is that even possible? Stick around as we uncover the fascinating process that turns simple plastic into the building blocks of imagination. Step 1. Gathering the raw material. Every Lego brick begins as small plastic granules made from ABS, or acrylonitrile butadiene styrene. This specific plastic is chosen for its superior durability, safety, and remarkable ability to maintain its shape over time. These tiny granules arrive at Lego factories in massive quantities and are stored in giant silos. What's remarkable is that Lego uses over 60 carefully crafted colors for their bricks, ensuring every shade is vibrant and consistent globally. Step 2. Melting the plastic. Once the granules are ready, they're sent into the injection molding machines. The granules are heated to approximately 230 degrees Celsius, or 446 degrees Fahrenheit, until they melt into a thick, gooey liquid. This molten plastic is then injected into specially designed molds under high pressure. Step 3. Molding the bricks. The molds themselves are engineering marvels. Crafted with incredible precision, the margin of error is so small. These molds are incredibly expensive, sometimes costing up to $100,000 each, because they are designed to last and produce bricks with flawless accuracy for years. Once the plastic fills the mold, it cools and solidifies in less than 10 seconds. With over 3,700 different shapes in production, each mold is a masterpiece, turning molten plastic into perfectly shaped Lego pieces in a matter of moments. Step 4. Cooling and inspection. After being ejected from the molds, the Lego pieces go through a cooling process. Even though they have hardened, the bricks are still slightly warm, and this final cooling ensures they maintain their exact shape and size without warping. Every single piece is closely inspected for defects. Fun fact: Lego has an astonishingly low rejection rate, less than 0.02%. Out of every million bricks produced, only about 20 fail to meet the standard. Step 5. Adding prints and designs. Not every Lego brick is plain. Some pieces, like minifigure faces, specialized tiles, or detailed decorations, require intricate printing. This step uses advanced machines that apply designs with pinpoint accuracy. Have you ever noticed how the prints on Lego pieces never smudge, fade, or peel? That's because Lego's printing process is engineered for long-lasting quality. They use non-toxic, child-safe inks to ensure safety while maintaining bright and clear designs. For a minifigure's face, for example, each tiny detail is printed layer by layer, ensuring perfect alignment. This stage gives Lego its personality. Step 6. Sorting the pieces. Once the pieces are molded and printed, they must be sorted into specific sets. This step may look chaotic, but it's a carefully orchestrated process. Automated systems use conveyor belts, scanners, and robotic arms to sort the bricks quickly and accurately. Step 7. Packaging the Lego sets. After sorting, the pieces are packaged along with instruction booklets into boxes. Lego is committed to making this process environmentally friendly and has begun transitioning from plastic bags to paper ones inside the boxes. The packaging itself is carefully engineered to fit all the pieces snugly while showcasing the set's design. Step 8. Shipping the bricks worldwide. Once packaged, the Lego sets are sent to distribution centers around the globe. Lego operates multiple factories in locations like Denmark, Hungary, China, and Mexico. To meet worldwide demand and ensure the experience remains consistent, no matter where a set is purchased. It's a race against time to deliver these tiny bricks of imagination to stores and homes everywhere. Every time an inflated rubber ball hits the court, a minor miracle of physics occurs. That satisfying bounce isn't just luck, it's a carefully engineered reaction. The rubber compresses, then instantly snaps back into its perfectly round shape. And inside, the tightly coiled air acts like a powerful spring, maximizing the rebound. This deceptively simple object is the core of so many beloved games, from basketball to volleyball. But how does this humble rubber sheet become a resilient, perfectly round sports ball? Part 1. Forging the heart. It all begins with the bladder, the heart of the ball. We start with large sheets of pure natural rubber. A factory worker precisely folds this sheet. A die is then placed on top, and a massive press punches through the layers, cutting out the bladder's shape. Next, a worker brushes adhesive around the fill hole and inserts a plug to seal it. Now we cure the rubber. The bladder is inflated and locked into a spherical chamber where it's heated for 5 minutes at a scorching 284 degrees Fahrenheit. This heat cures the rubber, locking in its shape. But a ball needs strength. The bladder is then spun on a revolving cylinder, taking up a winding layer of nylon threads. These threads twist tightly, forming a reinforcing layer that not only strengthens the bladder, but guarantees its perfectly spherical geometry. Part 2. Preparing the skin. The outside requires a different blend. The exterior skin is crafted from a composite of synthetic and natural rubber, mixed with mineral oil and magnesium carbonate for color and texture. Once cured, this compound is rolled into thick sheets. If we're making a volleyball, the blue rubber is folded and then flattened between a series of rollers until it's impossibly thin, lightweight, and pliable. Next, a metal pattern cutter comes into play. For a basketball, this cutter creates those distinctive fish-shaped strips designed to wrap seamlessly around the round bladder. The press forces the sharp edges through the material, yielding the precisely shaped panels. Part 3. The final assembly. It's time to bring the two parts together. A worker carefully lines the inner surface of a bonding chamber with the cut rubber strips. The bladder is then inserted and reinflated to its final size. The chamber closes, applying immense heat and pressure that bond the outer skin permanently to the reinforced bladder. Now for the details. A worker applies the brand name using a decal and glue. The ball is then placed into another mold and further inflated. This mold applies heat and pressure to emboss a specific pattern onto the surface, simultaneously baking the lettering into the rubber itself. Once complete, the worker peels away the decal plastic, revealing the permanent recessed branding. The ball gets a final air replenishment to ensure it's completely firm and round. Then the signature stripes are added. Black rubber paint is applied directly into the embossed grooves, curing quickly to become a permanent part of the ball's structure. The final element is the fill valve. A worker inserts the valve, and then a set of mechanical fists squeeze the ball to quickly deflate it for shipping. With the valve secured, the customer can easily reinflate their new ball at home. In just a couple of hours, a batch of raw rubber has been transformed into a durable, precision-engineered basketball. It's ready to hit the court, take a beating, and always bounce right back. The invention of polyurethane skateboard wheels in the early 1970s made feats like jumps and tight cornering suddenly possible. This was due to their superior grip on riding surfaces compared to the older metal or ceramic wheels, along with increased durability and greatly improved shock absorption. Part 1. Design and mold fabrication. The process begins with a computer design, which factors in practical and aesthetic considerations like size, hardness, colors, and graphics. Software guides precise cutting tools that carve into a solid aluminum puck, transforming it into one half of a wheel mold. The other half of the mold is sculpted by the computerized tooling to a profile that fits the first half perfectly. Not all molds are two-part, others are single-piece structures, each containing a pin in the center to form the critical bearing cavity. Part 2. Pouring and curing. A nozzle dispenses freshly mixed polyurethane liquid into the wheel molds. The liquid begins to solidify almost immediately. To complete the process, the polyurethane-filled molds are loaded into an oven and baked at 115 degrees Celsius for 40 minutes. During this baking period, any bubbles in the polyurethane rise to the top and are diffused, ensuring the final solid form has no weak spots. After baking, workers remove the pins from the molds. Part 3. Extraction, testing, and contouring. At the next station, a worker blasts compressed air between the wheels and the molds to pry the wheels free and pop them out. The wheel is bounced to demonstrate its high rebound, an indication that it will roll easily with very little drag. A worker uses a durometer gauge to probe the wheel and ensure the urethane has cured to the proper hardness. If the sample is sufficiently hard, the batch is ready. The skateboard wheel is clamped in a lathe, which spins the wheel while an automatic cutter contours the edges to a softer, more rounded profile. Graphic printing process. To give the wheels visual impact, an artist selects and arranges graphic designs on a computer. A film negative of the chosen images is printed. This negative is used to produce a printing plate from a piece of metal coated with a light-sensitive substance called emulsion. The film negative is placed on the plate inside a UV light chamber. Activating the UV light triggers a photochemical reaction that transfers the image from the negative to the plate. A solution is applied to remove the unexposed emulsion, which in the process etches the image into the printing plate. The chemicals are then rinsed off and the plate is dried to reveal the etched artwork. A worker positions a magnetized ink cup and the plate in a pad printing machine. The final element, a silicone pad, picks up the inked image from the plate and stamps it onto the skateboard wheel. Final checks and shipping. The printed wheels are set on a tray to dry. A technician clamps one of the wheels in a testing device to gauge the rebound, dropping a metal ball onto the wheel and measuring its bounce height. High rebound is desirable. Once cleared, the wheels are packaged in plastic, heat shrinked, and prepared for shipping. The entire manufacturing process takes approximately 3 days. If you like this bizarre build, hit like. It helps more than you think. And if you're into builds and discovery that exist in your daily life, subscribe and hot that bell to get notified on the next video.